A warm welcome to the McRobert Arts Centre in Stirling. These dancers and musicians are gathered together to present the story of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society through its dances at the start of this new millennium. The parts played by Mrs. Ysabel Stewart and Miss Jean Milligan in the formation and early years of the Scottish Country Dance Society cannot be overestimated. Without them, this story could not be told. The details of their roles as co-founders have been well recorded in their respective biographies. Dance with Your Soul for Miss Milligan and an album for Mrs. Stewart. It is, however, very fitting for us to celebrate their courage and determination in pursuing their aim to form a society to revive, conserve and promote the Scottish country dance. In its very early days, the society did have its critics, and it's greatly to the credit of the co-founders and of the other enthusiasts who joined them that they were not deflected from their objective. So strongly did they believe in the value and purpose of their society. It is therefore entirely appropriate that our first two dances pay tribute to the co-founders. They are the real Mrs. Stewart of Fasnacloich and Miss Milligan's Strathspey. The dancers are accompanied by David Cunningham. The society was formed on 26th November 1923, and Book 1 quickly followed. It was available early in 1924 with its 12 dancers, all reels and jigs and no strathspeys. The lack of strathspeys is easily explained. While dancers in Scotland in the 1920s were still very familiar with the Highland strathspeys and reels, strathspey country dances had long since fallen out of favour in the ballroom. The one exception to this was the Glasgow Highlanders. The fact that we now have many popular strathspeys, both traditional and newly devised, with many fine tunes to accompany them, is entirely due to the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society. This revival of the strathspey country dance did present the fledgling society with some problems. Which steps to use, for example? The strathspey travelling step of the 1920s and 30s was rather brisk and staccato in character, very reminiscent of the strathspey stepping of the Highland reels. The slower, smoother strathspey, with which we are now familiar, emerged from a process of evolution. Such evolutionary changes are inevitable when a tradition like ours is living and growing. Furthermore, it was not until 1926 that the matter of the strathspey setting step was finally resolved at a special conference of the Society held in Edinburgh. I read from the report of the conference. The setting step in slow time should not be a pas de basque, but should be a step that is suitable to strathspey music. That recommended is the common schottische step. In the early days, the predominance of the ladies and the rare sighting of a male dancer inevitably provoked some humorous commentary. There was also an article by the late Miss Alison Downey, a Glasgow journalist, in which she wrote amusingly about her experiences at a country dance class where there was a great want of gentlemen. She entitled the article, "Am I a Man Tonight?" It was a claim often made by Miss Milligan that the success of our society in its early days was in part due to the fact that it fulfilled a social need. Because a class or evening of country dancing could be attended without a partner, it was a pastime which appealed to a generation of women who had been deprived of male partners by the devastation of the First World War. The dancers will now dance Dance 1 from Book 1, Petronella. Thank you, dancers. We now conclude our celebration of the beginnings of the Society and our tribute to the co-founders and others whose efforts gave the society a firm foundation on which to grow and develop. Doreen Tom is at the piano. Johann McLean will accompany the dancing. From Book 2, The Glasgow Highlanders, and from Book 1, The Triumph.
Here we come a-dancing, here we come a-dancing, toe and till and heel and toe and up and down and all together. Here we come a-dancing, here we come a-dancing, lads and lasses blithely tap the merry tune, hand in hand and hearts a-beating high, step it bravely, never or never say die, singing, swinging gaily to and fro, all together on we go. Here we come a-dancing, here we come a-dancing, toe and heel and toe and up and down and all together. Here we come a-dancing, here we come a-dancing, lads and lasses blithely tap the merry tune, hand in hand and hearts a-beating high, step it bravely, never or never say die, singing, swinging gaily to and fro, all together on we go.
In this year 2001, the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society is in its 78th year. The country dance, which it aims to promote, has a considerably longer history. Throughout that long history, it has proved to be remarkably resilient and adaptable. And despite competition from other forms of popular social dance, it has endured. It has happily absorbed new formations, adapted to the new styles and fashions of the time, and taken on board new musical rhythms, such as the Strathspey tempo, unique to Scotland of the 18th century, and the waltz and polka rhythms of the 19th century. It was the professional teachers of dancing who were chiefly responsible for ensuring the survival of the country dance. The tradition of the dancing master was well established in most European countries more than 200 years ago, and in Scotland it persisted until the years between the two world wars. One of the best known of Scotland's peripatetic teachers of dancing was Donald R. Mackenzie, based here in Stirling. Mrs. Stewart consulted him early in 1921 about how to dance the poussette. His reply to her has survived and is conserved in the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society archives. In the meaning of the old French word poussette, the two couples at the top of the dance chassez round after each other in the way of a two-step waltz. In poussetting, 8 bars of the music is required in making 4 waltz turns. The dancing masters were gifted teachers and musicians. They had an extensive teaching repertoire, country dances, Highland solo dances and reels, as well as the other popular social dances of the time. As skilled exponents of the fiddle, they were able to provide their own musical accompaniment for their classes. We now pay tribute to the dance and musical heritage we have inherited from the past. It is good that we cherish and respect our traditional heritage. On the other hand, we cannot afford to be trapped by it. If we wish to bequeath a dance and music heritage to future generations, we, like the dancing masters of old and like the country dance itself, must be ready and willing to respond positively to present and future challenges. The first 2 dances are the Guidman of Ballingeich, jig, There's Nae Luck Aboot the Hoose, a Strathspey, once again to the piano, with the second dance accompanied by Johann MacLean.
Sure the news is true, and are you sure is real? Is this the time to think o' work, ye Judds fling by your wheel? Is this the time to think o' work when Colin's at the door? Give me my cloak, I'll to the quay and see him come ashore. For there's nae luck aboot the hoose, there's nae luck ava. There's little pleasure in the hoose when our good man's awa. For there's nae luck aboot the hoose, there's nae luck ava. There's little pleasure in the hoose when our good man's awa. Say true, his heart, say smooth, his tongue, his breath like Callander. His very foot has music in as he comes up the stair. And will I see his face again, and will I hear him speak? I'm downright dizzy with the thought, and troth I'm like to greet. For there's nae luck aboot the hoose, there's nae luck ava. There's little pleasure in the hoose when our good man's awa. For there's nae luck aboot the hoose, there's nae luck ava. There's little pleasure in the house when our good man's awa.
We conclude this section with 2 more dances, red house a reel, and the jimp waist a strathspey. For such a small country, Scotland has an amazingly rich heritage of traditional dance and music. As we are all aware, country dancing is only one of Scotland's traditions of dance. No doubt the best known of those other traditions is the Highland one, with its solo step dancing, such as the Highland Fling and the sword dance, and its reels, characterised by alternate stepping and reeling, and dance to medleys of strathspey and reel. Inevitably, there's been an exchange of influences between the different traditions. The country dance, for example, incorporated setting and reeling into its formations, and also adopted the stirring music of the Highland bagpipes and of gaeldom. Another form of social dancing, the quadrille, danced in Scotland for the past 2 centuries, has had its influence on both country and Highland dancing. The square formation of the quadrille is now well established within the country dance repertoire, as are the quadrille terms pas de basque and poussette. Some recent research has shown that Highland solo dancing, as we know it today, owes much to the influence of the solo stepping, which at one time was an essential component of quadrille dancing. In this section, the dancers commemorate and celebrate those elements of the country dance which have derived from the dance and music of the Highlands and Islands. They pay tribute to those other traditions which have helped to shape the style and form of Scottish country dancing, now enjoyed by us at the beginning of a new century. We begin with the Hebridean weaving lilt.
Oh, brachenlam, tannelam, brachenlam, soei. Brachenlam, shetannelam, she brachenlam, soei. Oh, brachenlam, tannelam, brachenlam, soei. Brachenlam, tannelam, brachenlam, soei. Oh, brachenlam, tannelam, brachenlam, soei. Brachenlam, shetannelam, she brachenlam, soei. Brachem, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachem, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachem, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, lamsje, tanne, lamsje, brachen, lamme, soei. Hoeke waren tonnekkeljen, lesje, brachen, soei. Hoeke waren tonnekkeljen, lesje, brachen, soei. Oh, hoeke waren tonnekkeljen, lesje, brachen, soei. Brachen, lamsje, tanne, lamsje, brachen, lamme, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, lamsje, tanne, lamsje, brachen, lamme, soei. Sjarrutte, johan, met je nie en kochen doen je. Sjutterutte, johan, met je nie en kochen doen. Oh, sjarrutte, johan, met je nie en kochen doen je. Brachen, lamsje, tanne, lamsje, brachen, lamme, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, lamsje, tanne, lamsje, brachen, lamme, soei. Saune, niele, saune, niele, rukkemi. Saune, niele, saune, niele, vajag. Saune, niele, saune, niele, rukkemi. Saune, niele, saune, niele, vajag. Door waar me jaune, niele, vakke trilne kutjerum. Door waar me jaune, niele, vakke trilne karum. Door waar me jaune, niele, vakke trilne kutjerum. Door waar me jaune, niele, vakke trilne karum. Brachen, lam, tannelam, brachen, lam, soei. Brachen, lam, tannelam, brachen, lam, soei. Oh, brachen, lam, tannelam, brachen, lam, soei. Brachen, lam, shetannelam, she brachen, lam, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, tanne, brachen, tanne, soei. Brachen, lam, shetannelam, she brachen, lam, soei.
We conclude the section with the Axum reel collected in Orkney and with La Rousse, which began life in the 19th century as a single figure quadrille, but is now danced in our Scottish country dance style. Thank you, dancers. The jewel in the crown is how Miss Milligan once described the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society Summer School. This was no exaggeration, because in many respects the summer school is quite exceptional. I doubt if there's any form of dance anywhere in the world which can bring together 800 to 1,000 dancers every summer. The first summer school was organised in 1927, and apart from 1 year in Edinburgh, and with the exception of the war years, has been held each year since then in St Andrews. There can be no doubting the significance of what the summer school has done for the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society and for Scottish country dancing. By offering classes for all levels of ability, including teacher training, the school has successfully achieved a worldwide acceptance of the style and standards of dancing advocated by the Society. The success of the summer school has not been confined entirely to Scottish country dancing. Other dance traditions have also benefited. The Royal Scottish Country Dance Society at its summer school has done as much as any organisation to keep alive the interest of male dancers in Highland dancing. The first teacher of Highland stepping at St Andrews was the famous Angus teacher Dancy John Reid of New Tile, who was himself a pupil of the equally famous Dancy James Neal of Forfar, who taught the Queen Mother to dance at Glamis Castle. Dancy Reid is remembered for his ability to dance and play the fiddle at the same time. His successor at the summer school in the post-war years, another eminent dancer and teacher, had the same talent. He could dance and play the pipes at the same time. I refer to the unforgettable Bobby Watson. It was at the summer school that the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society has been able to revive and popularise another of Scotland's dance traditions, namely ladies' step dancing. This is a distinctive style of solo step dancing which can trace its origins back to the beginning of the 19th century, when the dancing masters choreographed special dances for their female pupils to perform at the end of season assemblies. It's thanks to the researches and teaching, principally at the summer school, of the late Mrs. Tibby Cram, that ladies' step dancing is now recognised and enjoyed throughout the world. It was the discovery in Aberdeen in the mid-1940s of the Hill manuscript which was the inspiration for Mrs. Cram's revival of ladies' step dancing. The manuscript, dated 22nd March 1841, records, along with other popular social dances of the time, several hitherto unknown solo step dances. The dancers now acknowledge and celebrate the achievements of the summer school at St Andrews with the Summer Assembly, a reel. Now a lady's step dance, Blue Bonnets from the Hill manuscript, danced by Janet Johnston. Thank you, Janet. And now a Highland Fling danced by Alastair Brown. It is a remarkable feature of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society story that its success has been achieved mostly without the aid of any public funding. The achievements since 1923 have only been possible with the volunteered loyal support of the members. Inevitably, amongst the many thousands of members over the past many years, there have been a number of outstanding personalities. If we were each asked to compile our individual list of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society personalities, whilst there would be some names in common, no doubt each list would be different. Members who have given distinguished service to the Society are mentioned elsewhere in this presentation. But it is at this point that we wish to acknowledge the debt owed to the many notable individuals who, by their dedication, leadership, inspiration, teaching, wise counsel, and their creativity have ensured that the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society still flourishes at the beginning of this new century. As a collective tribute to all such persons, we have selected 3 dances composed by the very well-known deviser John Drury of Aberdeen. The dances are MacLeod's Fancy, a jig, Miss Florence Adams, a strathspey, and Major Ian Stewart, a jig. As Scottish country dancers, we are all aware of the partnership between music and dance. No one would contradict the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society manual, which states that music is the stimulus of the dance. The Royal Scottish Country Dance Society has been fortunate in being able to draw upon a rich store of traditional dance music. The compositions of the renowned composers of the past 200 years, for example, Robert McIntosh, William Marshall, Neil Gow, founder of a family dynasty of musicians and composers, and James Scott Skinner, the strathspey king, appear often in the many books of dances now published by the Society. These books have given a new lease of life to many tunes which might otherwise have remained largely unknown. It was no surprise then that the University of Aberdeen, when it awarded an honorary doctorate to Miss Milligan in 1977, cited her achievements for traditional music as well as for traditional dance. Both Miss Milligan and Mrs. Stewart were musical. Miss Milligan was a pianist and her former students have recalled the occasions when she conducted their dance classes from the piano. Mrs. Stewart, with her Argyllshire background, had a great knowledge of Highland music. She played the chanter and had the additional talent of being able to whistle, which, as she said, was a great advantage when collecting tunes. Some of the early adherents to the society, for example, Frank Bissett, Michael Dyack, and Herbert Wiseman, were well-known names in the musical life of Scotland in the 1920s and 30s, and in particular were actively associated with the Scottish musical festivals. It was with their help that Scottish country dancing was introduced very quickly into all the major festivals, thus giving a great boost to the progress made by Scottish country dancing, especially in schools. The children will now dance the round reel of 8. Thank you, children. Since those early days, the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society has been fortunate in the musicians who have espoused its cause. As composers, arrangers, researchers, advisors and performers, the musicians have done so much over so many years to ensure the continued happy partnership of music and dance. This is our tribute to them all. The dancers are the music makers are real, Mr. Robert H. Mackay Astrathspey, and the Ladies of Dance, a dance selected for its tune, the Duchess of Buccleuch, which comes from the pen of one of Scotland's finest composers, Neil Gow. from Dundee to Daharan, from Glasgow to Gifu, from Stirling to Selangor. Sounds like a potential song lyric, but in fact, these place names are taken from the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society directory of branches and affiliated groups. This encyclopedia of place names is not only evidence of the international success of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society, but also proof of the universal and timeless appeal of the country dance. It's an essential principle of our form of social dance that a knowledge of the basic technique and formations permits a dancer to join easily and happily with other country dancers wherever they meet in the world. This was true 200 years ago when the country dance was at the height of its popularity in Europe. And it is no less true now that the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society has exported the Scottish country dance to many countries of the world. To reflect the international appeal of Scottish country dancing and of the worldwide influence of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society, the dancers will now dance a jig from New Zealand, Pelorus Jack, from the Society's Millennium publication, Book 41. The Strathspey, 12 Coats Crescent, which as all RSCDS members will know, is the headquarters of the Society in Edinburgh. And finally, a contribution from France, the reel Le Moulin Rouge. we have come to the finale of this presentation. It is hoped you enjoyed the selection of dances and music. It will be appreciated that the story of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society is not easily compressed into a short programme. Whilst this may be the conclusion of this presentation, fortunately it's not the finale of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society story. The Society's story goes on. It would be interesting to speculate about what might be said at the beginning of the next century about the subsequent chapters of the story. However, it would seem much more appropriate simply to conclude by expressing the wish that the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society continues to prosper and flourish during this new century, and that Scottish country dancing provides just as much enjoyment, friendship and fun as it did in the previous century. To conclude this story of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society, we have selected two dances which reflect the spirit of Scottish country dancing. A Strathspey, Let's Meet Again, and the jig, It's Just for Fun. Finally, I should like to thank all the dancers and musicians who have participated in this film.